Every Torah portion has something unique. One of the things that make this week's Torah portion, entitled Ki Teitzei, unique, is that it has more mitzvahs than any other weekly portion of the Torah. We know there are 613 commandments, mitzvahs, and this week's Torah portion has 74, about 12% of the entirety. Out of 53 Torah portions, this has 12%. So the focus, you could say, on this week's Torah portion is mitzvahs, and not just quality, but also quantity. Very often we focus on the importance of the quality of a mitzvah, putting your whole heart and soul in a mitzvah. And sometimes that trumps quantity. But sometimes we have to put the emphasis on quantity as well, because quantity creates quality. And the most blatant example of that is a minyan, a quorum of 10 men that are needed to be able to say certain prayers in the synagogue. So even though these are 10 very ordinary people, simple people, may not even be very good people, but 10 Jewish men form a quorum. They create a new entity. So it's the quantity that also contributes to the quality. I want to focus on two mitzvahs that appear in this week's Torah portion, and they're connected by way of a story. One of the greatest rabbis of the 18th, 19th centuries was Rabbi Moshe Sofer, Rabbi Moshe Schreiber, who was the rabbi of the city of Pressburg, which I believe today is called Bratislava. This rabbi hailed originally from Frankfurt in Germany, but he became the rabbi of Pressburg, and he was considered to be the most authoritative person in terms of Jewish law in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And Rabbi Moshe Sofer was not a rich person. He was a rabbi. He didn't get paid huge salaries. And one day, one of his congregants, who was a very, very wealthy man, came to see him because he had a very serious problem. And the man looked very downcast and depressed. And the rabbi says, "What's wrong?" He says, "Everyone knows me as a very wealthy man. I want you to know that I've lost so much of my wealth. I have so many creditors that will want to collect from me because I've borrowed from them, and I don't have a penny. All my business ventures went kaput, and what makes things worse is that this is the time of the year when I would travel, I believe it was to Leipzig, a city in Germany, for the fair to purchase merchandise and bring it back and sell it at great profits. And that was one of my main areas of income. The problem is I don't even have the car fare to travel to Leipzig, let alone purchase things there. And when people are going to see that I'm staying home, that I'm not going to the fair, then rumors will spread, and there'll be true rumors that I am not doing very well. And all the creditors will pounce on me because they want to get their money back. And I'll be so humiliated, and who knows what's going to happen to me. I don't know what to do, Rabbi. So Rabbi Sofer says to him, "I'll tell you what. I have some money here that I've raised for various causes. I'll give you the money. It'll be enough for you to travel to the fair and to do a little bit of business, purchase a few things, and you're a smart businessman. You'll buy some things, you'll sell at a profit, you'll buy some more stuff, and little by little you get back on your feet." And the man thanked him profusely. And the rabbi said, "I'm sorry, you can't thank. When you lend someone money, you're not allowed to pay interest, which is a mitzvah that appears in this week's Torah portion. And thanking is considered to be interest. So just use the money and God will bless you and help you." The man travels to the fair. He purchases some merchandise. He found some at a great bargain. He sells it, made a good profit. He invests some more. He was there a little while, and he was able to amass a small fortune, but enough to pay his creditors that were now asking him for payment, and enough to invest in bigger ventures and to regain his wealth. So he comes back to the Rabbi Moshe Sofer. Well, Rabbi Moshe Sofer was in the middle of a lecture, a Talmudic lecture to his students. He ran a very prestigious yeshiva, the Academy of Talmudic Scholarship. And he was in the middle of the lesson, and the man comes in to the rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, I'm back from my trip, and thank God, as you advised me, I was successful. And here is a beautiful watch that I want you to have as a token of my appreciation. I guess he forgot that you can't pay with interest. He had the money that he borrowed and was willing to return it. And the rabbi took the watch and looked at it and turned it in every direction and was saying, wow, this is such a beautiful watch. I've never had a watch like this. It's so beautiful, and it looks like it's a really expensive one. I really appreciate it so much. And then after he goes about praising it, he gives it back to the man. He says, I can't take it. So the man says, why not? He said, don't you remember I told you when you lend money to another Jew, you're not allowed to charge interest. You're not allowed to pay the interest. You're not allowed to take the interest. So I couldn't take more than the money that I lent you. So the rabbi, the businessman said, then Rabbi, why were you showing how much you really appreciated the gift? You were oohing and eyeing and raving about how beautiful this watch is, and you never saw a watch like that. Why were you doing that? He says, I'll tell you a story for you to understand why I showed so much excitement about the gift that I wasn't going to take anyhow. When I was younger, I studied under a very great man. His name was Rabbi Nathan Adler, who was a great Talmudic scholar, one of the greatest of his time, great mystic, Kabbalist. And we were traveling from Frankfurt to another city. I believe it was Boskowitz, I'm not sure. And it was the middle of the winter, very difficult traveling route because the roads were filled with snow. We were in a wagon drawn by two horses. It was trudging along for miles and miles. And somewhere in the middle of nowhere, the horses get stuck in the snow, and the coach driver couldn't budge the wagon. The horses just didn't have the strength to extricate themselves from the snow and continue with the journey. So the coach driver says to us, well, we're sitting in the coach and we're huddled together to try to get a little warmth. And he says, I'm going to go to the nearest village, not too far from here. It'll take me a few hours to travel, to walk to the village, and I'll get another horse. Maybe another horse will help these horses pull out. Hours go by, and he brings back another animal, and he harnesses it to the wagon, and he's about to start to pull the wagon out of the snow, and Rabbi Adler grabs his young student, Moshe Sofer. He grabs him and they jump off the wagon, and he starts dancing in the snow with Rabbi Sofer. And Rabbi Sofer thought maybe the cold went to his teacher's head and he went crazy. Why'd you jump off the wagon? He says, can't you see what he did? What did he do? He harnessed a cow. And the man says, yes, I couldn't find any horses, so I got a cow. Well, another mitzvah in this week's Torah portion is you're not allowed to plow or, for that matter, do any type of work with an ox and a donkey together. Any two species, you cannot harness them together. That's one of the 613 commandments, and a commandment that appears in this week's Torah portion. So he said, okay, I understand we're not allowed to sit in that wagon while it's being drawn by two kinds of animals, but why the dancing? And Rabbi Adler says, don't you realize that as rabbis, when would we ever have an opportunity to fulfill this kind of a mitzvah? The rabbis harness animals to wagons. Would anyone think of harnessing a cow to a wagon drawn by horses? This is the only time in my life that I would ever have an opportunity to fulfill this mitzvah, and to fulfill it in a time when we're freezing, it's freezing cold and we're in the snow, And it occurred to me that God gave me this unique opportunity that I can do a mitzvah that I would have no other opportunity in my life to do. This thought dawned on me, and I got so excited that I couldn't contain my joy, and I started dancing. So Rabbi Moshe Sofer turns to this businessman whom he had loaned money, and he'd now repaid the money, and he said, most people, in fact, nobody would come to the rabbi for a loan, for a business loan. Rabbis are not the people would go to. You go to a bank, you go to wealthy business people. So the commandment not to take interest is a commandment, a mitzvah that I would never have an opportunity to do. And now that you came back and you gave me this beautiful watch, the more I got excited about the watch, and that was sincere, the more how I really thought the watch was beautiful, the more I realized that I have an opportunity to forego that pleasure and that benefit and give you back the watch and fulfill this mitzvah, because it's once in a lifetime mitzvah that I could never fulfill any other time. Who knows if anyone will ever come to me and borrow money from me that I would have a commandment not to take interest. The two stories, the story within the story, both point to a very powerful lesson. That there are many mitzvahs that we can do, and we can do them repeatedly. But there are opportunities in life when a mitzvah comes to our attention, and sometimes we'll think about the mitzvah, what's the point of this mitzvah? It's not so important. I'm into other things. But you have to realize, on the contrary, if God puts you in a position where you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah that you may never have another opportunity, that should get you really excited. You should be exhilarated. But then there's another lesson. The truth of the matter is that every mitzvah, no matter how many times we are called upon to do the mitzvah, every mitzvah we do, each time we do it, should get us so much joy that we should start singing and dancing from joy. The only reason why we don't, even people who are steeped in Judaism don't sing and dance every time they do a mitzvah, is because when you get to do something over and over again, you lose some of the enthusiasm. But the truth is that we should have that enthusiasm. But moreover, we have to recognize that even a mitzvah that we do every day, put on tefillin every morning, 6 days of a week, every week of the year, every year of our lives since our bar mitzvah, nevertheless, each time we do a mitzvah, it's unique. As Maimonides says, that a Jew should always look at the world as being evenly balanced between good and bad. And when you do one mitzvah, you tip the scales and you bring salvation to the world. And as the Rebbe would emphasize over and over again, that it's that one mitzvah that may be the mitzvah that will tip the scales and bring us Mashiach and take us out of exile. So we should look at every mitzvah and reflect in every mitzvah. And that's one of the reasons we say a blessing before doing most mitzvahs, because the blessing is that which alerts us to the fact that this mitzvah connects us to God and liberates us from exile. And this should engender the greatest amount of joy and ecstasy.